Welcome back, guys, to Rancor Exotics, and today I'm co-hosted by a papaya here, a reptile, letting you know that I know what I'm talking about. Now, today in Herb Talk, we're going to be talking about the spider gene and the spider complex. Now, spiders really at the forefront of the complex because the spider is the most popular gene in the spider complex, but other genes like the super sable, super spot nose, champagne, woma, hidden gene woma, all those genes are basically part of the same complex. It's just spider is the most popular animal out of the bunch, so it got nicknamed the spider complex. Now, spider, what it basically is, well, morphs in general are just basically paint jobs for ball pythons. It's all the same snake, just with different looks, different patterning, coloration, stuff like that. Temperament's usually the same. However, the genes in the spider complex take it one step further in the wrong direction, and it basically also encourages neurological issues to occur in the snake. This can be seen as head wobble. In more severe cases, it's corkscrewing, where the animal kind of heads corkscrews around. Wobble, corkscrew, and extreme agitation when they're being fed. They kind of fly all over the place. I've seen times where the animal even bites itself thinking they have a prey, and so it does not look very nice. Now the question is, should there be government regulation or whatever to ban the sale of spiders? And if so, to what level? Is it a complete total ban, no spiders sold anywhere? Or is it something like England where they banned sales of spiders at expos? Or should there be no regulation? It should be left completely up to the community. You know, it's those are all the different things, options people talk about, right? My opinion on the topic is the consumer should be the one to decide, right? If everyone becomes aware of what spider is and everyone is in unanimous disagreement on what it does, then spiders will never be sold, right? Because everybody agrees that it's bad, and people will just phase out spiders completely out of the industry. A good example of this was with the desert gene, not the desert ghost, the desert gene, because it produced problems with reproductive issues with the female. However, of course, there was a big incentives for breeders to phase out desert because it affected their bottom lines, because it affected the reproduction, and so it kind of affected how much money they were going to make and if there was going to be any offsprings. So deserts got phased out, and if there are deserts, they're pet quality and they're not really there for breeding. However, spiders are a little different because spiders feed and breed usually just fine. They look really nice and they have really good impact when people first see spiders. When I saw a bumblebee for the first time, I lost my shit. It's a good looking snake. I said I wanted that. Of course, I didn't know what spider is or how morphology works in ball pythons at the time. However, I saw the bumblebee and I said, that's a snake I gotta have. Luckily, I didn't buy one, and first I did my research. However, this might not be the case for many people. That leads me to my next point. It is to the consumer's responsibility to become informed of what they're buying. Right? That's true for anything, especially when you're buying an animal, right? With dogs, cats, you do your research. If a certain dog breed is prone to certain illnesses, for the owners to be aware. I, of course, am not really, I really don't like dog breeding because a lot of times there's many conditions that dogs have that are just exacerbated because of inbreeding. However, that's usually not the case for ball pythons and snakes. People usually try to strengthen their bloodlines and they stay away from inbreeding or line breeding. That's not always the case. However, I've seen people in the reptile community do it a lot more responsibly than dog breeders. That's a tangent. Let's go back to ball pythons. Now, spiders, like I said, should be completely controlled by the community. So if the consumer is fully aware of what the spider gene does and they're still on the market, that means it's being sold to people that understand the condition and they understand the risks of having and breeding spiders, right? So that's totally fine. However, there's always a segment of people that buy things without knowing what's going on. And those are the people that buy spider not knowing what's going on with their neurological issues. And that's when we get, people posting it on Facebook and everywhere of these snakes with their wobble. Sometimes severe because, it's the roll of the dice. Right. So, again, most of the responsibility is on the person that buys the snake, that's getting into that project. However, there is also a portion of that responsibility, no matter how small, on the breeder, to make sure that when they do sell a spider, that the person they're selling it to understands what spider is and what's going on with the snake, right? If a person that's picking up a spider ball python says, yeah, I know what spider is and its condition and all that stuff, I got, plans to make a killer bee or bumblebee or whatever, I know what spider is. Perfect. However, if say a little kid walks up to their table or wherever and says, I want that one. Oh, what is that? What's the name of that snake? So I don't know, that's a snake and I want that one because it looks cool. They have no idea what spider is. I think at that point the breeder, if say they're at an expo, should say, hey, this spider, it doesn't have severe wobble, because they shouldn't be selling animals that have severe wobble. It has, this mild condition. It's, in this particular snake, it's not that bad. If you plan on breeding it, there might be some issues. However, this animal should eat and breed just fine. However, just be aware that this is a condition that can be passed on to the offspring and can be a severe case. If they just say that, that'd be perfect. People would then be educated on whether they should buy or not, and then it would be solely on the customer's decision whether or not to support it. If the government walks in and starts banning animals, this is the slippery slope argument. However, I really do think that if the government starts putting say-sos on the reptile industry, they really don't know where to put the lines, because let's be real here, they're not really reptile enthusiasts like you and me. Of course, if one day they said we're banning the spider complex and all the genes associated with it, I wouldn't be affected because I don't have a single animal with those genes, so I wouldn't really care. However, the government coming in and saying you can't do this would kind of put a damper on things, and then I would quickly turn around and say, well, what about the dog industry? The kennel industry. I hate bulldogs and I hate pugs because they sound like they're dying half the time with their suffocation, right? What about them? The spider might have a little wobble, but it eats and breeds just fine. A lot of the snakes are perfectly healthy. But what about the dogs over there that sound like they're dying and, take 5 steps and then kind of start pretending they have like heat stroke or something, right? So I don't think the government really should have a say in it. I think the people that know about the animals should have the say, and that's the consumer and the breeder. The breeder has a responsibility, no matter how small it is, to at least make the effort to educate, and the consumer has majority of the responsibility to understand what they're buying and what they're getting into, right? So that is my opinion on the spider and the spider complex. Will I ever get spider or a gene in the spider complex? and that is no. I don't plan on getting any. I'll avoid it like cancer, simply because I don't want to breed something, and then be excited for a clutch, cut it open, the snakes slither out, and they all have and they all look like they're drunk. They just start bobbing and weaving. I don't want that. Of course, many other people don't, so they stay away from it, and because of that, a lot of breeders have kind of started to shy away from spider as well, because it's not selling as well as it used to. And that's because people are educating themselves. Will the spider and the spider complex ever get phased out? I don't think so, because things like champagne and super sable, super spot nose, it's spider sales might go down, but I'm certain champagne will still stick around just fine. And so that's just how genes work. Of course, the question goes down to you. Do you support spider? What do you think the line should be drawn? I don't think the government should step in. Do you think they should? Leave it down in the comments. Let's form a healthy discussion. So this has been another episode on Herp Talk. Thanks for coming by, and thanks for looking. Bye.